The old human moved slowly through the slave market, not because his body demanded it, but because his heart already carried too much weight to rush anymore. Every step echoed with memories of battles survived and people lost. The air was thick with alien scents, ozone and iron and fear, and above him banners fluttered beneath a violet sky while armored overseers watched with bored eyes. He had worn armor once, polished and proud, a soldier of a forgotten war. Now he wore a plain coat, its fabric frayed at the edges, hiding scars that told stories no one asked to hear anymore. The galaxy had moved on from his kind. Humans were considered old allies at best and inconvenient relics at worst. Yet he had come anyway, guided by something deeper than logic. The cages lined the corridor like open wounds, energy bars humming softly as if whispering apologies they did not mean. Inside them were beings from a dozen worlds, some defiant, some broken, some staring into nothing at all. And then he saw them, 3 alien girls huddled together, their skin shimmering with faint bioluminescent patterns that pulsed weakly like dying stars. They were young by any measure, though their eyes carried the heaviness of centuries of fear compressed into days. One clutched the others as if her arms alone could hold fate at bay. Another lifted her chin in quiet defiance, trembling but unbroken. The third stared directly at the old human, not pleading, not hopeful, just watching, as if measuring whether he was another monster or something else entirely. A memory struck him then, sharp and unwelcome. A battlefield under a red sun, civilians trapped between collapsing lines, his commander shouting retreat, the law demanding obedience, and him stepping forward anyway. That choice had cost him everything once, his rank, his youth, his future, and yet his feet carried him closer to the cage without hesitation. An overseer noticed and sneered, his translator buzzing harshly. These are premium stock, princess cast from a minor system, sold under war indemnity law. He said, mocking emphasis on law, as if the word itself were a weapon, not property to be questioned, not mercy to be expected. The old human felt his jaw tighten. The word princess stirred something bitter and familiar. He remembered salutes given to alien royalty during alliances that no longer existed, remembered promises made between species that had dissolved when warships turned their guns elsewhere. How much? He asked quietly, his voice steady despite the storm rising in his chest. The overseer laughed, assuming weakness, assuming age meant softness. He named a price designed to humiliate, a sum meant to remind a relic of his place in the modern galaxy. Around them other buyers watched, amused, waiting for the human to back away. Instead, the old soldier reached into his coat and activated a credit seal linked to accounts untouched since the war. Funds earned through battles and bounties and years of silence. The seal chimed acceptance, loud and undeniable. The market fell quiet. The alien girls froze, disbelief rippling through them like shock waves through fragile glass. The defiant one's glow flared bright in sudden emotion. Hope perhaps, or terror of a different kind. The one who had been clinging tightened her grip, whispering something in her own tongue that sounded like a prayer. The overseer's smile faltered, transaction confirmed, he said stiffly, releasing the cage fields. But understand human, by galactic law, rescue through purchase binds you to responsibility. You claim them, you accept the consequences. Consequences, the word echoed in the old human's mind. It had followed him all his life. He nodded once. I understand, he said, though he did not fully, not yet. As the energy bars faded, the girls hesitated, chains still around their wrists, unsure if freedom was real or another trick. The old human stepped forward slowly, careful not to startle them. His hands open, palms scarred, a universal sign of peace he had learned on his first off-world mission. You're safe now, he said softly, the translator adjusting his words into harmonics their species could understand. I won't hurt you. The one who had been watching him finally moved. Her eyes met his, ancient and luminous, and in that moment something unseen shifted. A thread pulled tight by fate itself. Far above, unseen warships altered their patrol routes. Ancient laws stirred from dormancy, and destiny took notice of a tired human who had once again chosen mercy over obedience. Behind them the market noise slowly returned, but none of it mattered anymore, because the rescue had already begun, and neither the old soldier nor the alien princesses yet understood the battle their choice would awaken, or how deeply their lives were now bound together. They did not leave the market together at first, not truly, because freedom is not a single step but a fragile series of breaths after. A lifetime of fear, The old human walked a half-pace ahead, deliberately slow, while the three alien girls followed with cautious movements, chains still loose around their wrists, each step uncertain as if the ground itself might betray them. Eyes followed them everywhere, some curious, some hostile, some calculating, rumors already moving faster than sound. A human purchasing princess caste slaves was not a quiet act. It was a disturbance, a ripple that touched old treaties and sleeping laws. The old soldier felt it in his bones the way he once sensed incoming fire before scanners caught it. At the exit gate, an enforcer drone hovered lower, its lens glowing a cold blue, purchase confirmed, transit authorization required. It intoned. The old human paused, feeling the girls tense behind him. He could hear their breathing now, quick and shallow. One of them whispered something sharp and fearful, a word that translated roughly to ownership. He turned slightly, meeting their eyes again. "I will not claim you as property," he said gently, his voice steady but heavy with truth. "The law may say otherwise, but laws can be wrong. I learned that a long time ago." The drone processed, delayed, then moved aside, authorization granted, but compliance with galactic responsibility statutes will be monitored. Its tone was almost warning, almost threat. Outside, the sky was wide and painfully bright. A transport platform stretched toward the horizon, ships of every shape rising and falling like metal birds. The old human led them toward a modest vessel docked at the far edge, scarred plating, human design, outdated but cared for. Its name etched faintly along the hull in a language few remembered. The girls stopped when they saw it, uncertainty flickering across their luminous skin. "This is yours?" one asked, disbelief woven into her voice. The translator softened her tone but could not hide the fear beneath. "It is," he replied. "It's small, but it will take us somewhere safer than this." Safer. The word tasted unfamiliar to them. Safety had always been conditional, temporary, bought with obedience or pain. As they boarded the ship, the interior lights adjusted automatically, warm hues replacing the harsh market glare. One of the girls flinched at the hum of the engines. Another reached out instinctively to steady her sister. The third watched the human closely, curiosity growing where terror had once lived. He moved with practiced efficiency, unlocking restraints, deactivating trackers embedded cruelly beneath their skin. His hands were careful, respectful. He explained each motion before he made it, even when the law did not require it, especially because it did not. When the last chain fell away, the silence felt heavy, sacred almost. The girl who had clung to the others sank to the floor, overwhelmed, bioluminescence flaring bright as emotion spilled free. She pressed her forehead to the cool metal, whispering thanks in a voice that trembled. The old soldier turned away to give her space, memories rising unbidden, of comrades collapsing after extraction, of the sound of restraints hitting the ground after a prison break long ago. Some things never changed. As the ship lifted from the platform, alarms did not sound, but something else did. A quiet chime on his console, encrypted, ancient, a priority channel he had not seen active in decades. His brow furrowed as the signal resolved. Galactic law marker, royal caste involvement detected. He exhaled slowly. They felt it too, all three of them, a sudden heaviness, as if invisible eyes had found them at last. One gripped the edge of a seat. "They will come," she said softly, not as a threat but as a certainty. "Warships follow royal blood, even forgotten blood." "I know," he replied, meeting her gaze, "and I won't run from them." That answer surprised them more than the rescue itself. The idea of standing still when power approached was alien in every sense. The girl who had watched him from the cage studied his face, the lines carved by years of choice and consequence. "Why," she asked quietly, "you owe us nothing." He considered that, truly considered it, then spoke. "Because someone once stood still for me, when the law said they should not, and I have been trying to repay that debt ever since." The ship entered open space, stars stretching into brilliant lines. Behind them the market shrank into insignificance. But ahead, far ahead, destiny stirred. Ancient codes awakening. Fleets adjusting course, and somewhere in the dark, a princess caste signal burned brighter than it had in generations, calling war, calling judgment, calling fate. Space wrapped around the ship like a vast silent ocean, stars drifting past in slow deliberate motion. Yet inside the small vessel tension grew heavy enough to feel. The old human adjusted their course by instinct more than calculation, choosing paths between trade lanes, avoiding signals that burned too bright, the kind that attracted attention he did not yet want. Behind him, the three alien girls sat close together, not from fear alone now, but from something deeper, an awareness that the universe itself had noticed them again. Their bioluminescent patterns shifted constantly, colors blooming and fading in rhythms he did not recognize, beautiful and unsettling, as if emotions were leaking directly through their skin. The one who had spoken of warships earlier closed her eyes, her glow dimming to a deep indigo. "The signal is active," she said softly, "ancient, older than our empire. It was placed in our blood long before we were born. A beacon meant for extinction or coronation, depending on who answers." The old soldier felt a chill despite the steady warmth of the cabin. "You mean they will come to reclaim you?" She nodded slowly, "But not only reclaim, Judge. Our lineage was erased from records after a failed succession. We were declared lost to prevent civil war. Yet the law remembers even when history forgets." Another girl spoke then, her voice tight. "We were never meant to survive. When the market took us, it was easier for the council to pretend we were dead. Slaves do not inherit thrones." Silence followed her words, thick with implication. The old human absorbed it all, understanding forming piece by piece. Princesses not just in name but in consequence. Living keys to an empire that had chosen stability over truth. "So buying you," he murmured, "was more than a rescue. It was a summons," the Watcher girl replied, looking at him with eyes that seemed far older now. "You activated a law older than your species, human." He exhaled slowly, the weight of it settling into his chest like armor he had hoped never to wear again. His gaze flicked to the console where faint signals pulsed just below detection thresholds. He could feel the galaxy aligning itself toward them, not with urgency but with inevitability. "Why did the market keep you alive?" he asked, curiosity cutting through dread. "Because the slavers did not know," the clinging girl said quietly, her voice steadier now that fear had space to transform. "Royal markers are hidden beneath our light patterns, only visible during a full cast scan. The kind only fleets possess, not merchants." The ship shuddered slightly as it passed through a thin gravitic shear. The lights dimmed for a heartbeat. In that brief darkness something changed. The girls glowed brighter, instinctively, their patterns synchronizing, forming symbols that made the old soldier's skin prickle, shapes that felt deliberate, meaningful. The Watcher girl noticed his reaction. "You can see it," she said, surprised. "Not the meaning," he answered honestly, "but I've fought beside too many species to ignore a war pattern when I see one that earned something like respect." Flickering gold across her skin, humans were always underestimated, even now, especially now. Another signal chimed, closer this time, stronger, not hostile yet but unmistakably military. The old soldier's hands moved faster, rerouting power, masking emissions. He felt younger in those moments, purpose sharpening his movements, battle memory waking from long sleep. "They are scanning outer sectors," the indigo girl whispered. "Their patience is legendary. They will not rush. They want us to feel seen." He glanced back at them, then did something unexpected. He sat down, lowering himself to their level, the movement slow and deliberate. "Listen to me," he said. "Whatever they think you are, whatever throne or law follows you, you are not cargo on my ship, you are not weapons either, you are people, and I will not trade you for peace." The clinging girl's glow surged bright white, emotion spilling over. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not as property, not as leverage, not as a problem to be solved. The Watcher girl leaned closer, voice barely audible. "If you stand with us when they arrive, they will name you consort by default. Human law does not protect you here. Alien law will bind you." He met her gaze without flinching. "I've lived long enough to know some chains are worth breaking and some bonds are worth accepting. If fate wants to argue, it can meet me face to face." Something ancient stirred then, not in space but within the ship itself. Systems flickered briefly. The royal signal flared once more, stronger than before, and far away engines turned, warships waking from patrol slumber, banners unfurling in the dark. The girls felt it together, destiny tightening its grip. The rescue had become a declaration, and the quiet old human at their side had unknowingly stepped into the center of a battle written long before his birth. One that would decide not just their future, but the meaning of law itself. The ship could no longer hide the truth of what it carried. Not from the galaxy and not from itself, the royal signal surged without warning, flooding every system with ancient code. Lights flared crimson then gold, alarms whispered rather, then screamed, as if even the machine understood this was not an emergency but an awakening. The old human steadied himself against the console, heart pounding with a rhythm he had not felt since his final battle. Reading scrolled faster than expected. Not a pursuit vector, not an attack formation, something else entirely, ceremonial frequencies layered with military encryption. A contradiction that made his blood run cold. They are not coming to seize you, he said slowly, realization forming. They are coming to confirm. The three alien girls froze, their synchronized glow faltering. Confirm what? The Indigo One asked, though her eyes already knew. Before he could answer, the ship's translator activated on its own, projecting a voice not from outside but from within, ancient and resonant, bound to the royal signal itself. Designation verified, royal triad located, human guardian identified, protocol succession marriage invoked. The words struck like a physical blow. Marriage, the clinging girl whispered, her voice trembling. That law was abolished after the civil fracture. Abolished for citizens, the Watcher girl replied hollowly. Not for extinction contingencies. The old soldier felt the weight of the past crash into the present, memories aligning with meaning at last. The overseer's warning in the market, responsibility binds you. He had thought it meant shelter, protection, guardianship, not this. The voice continued, unyielding, in absence of royal consorts and in presence of existential threat. The one who claims, shelters, and defends the royal blood becomes bound as spouse and shield. Refusal constitutes abdication and activates purge authority. Purge, the word echoed inside the small cabin like a death sentence. If you refuse, the Indigo girl said softly, the fleets will erase us, quietly, cleanly, to preserve stability. The clinging girl's light flickered erratically, horror mixing with guilt. We never wanted this, you were only supposed to save us. The old human closed his eyes for a long breath. When he opened them, there was no panic in his gaze, only the calm of someone who had faced impossible odds too many times to count. How long until they arrive? Minutes, the Watcher girl answered, close now, they want witnesses. The ship shuddered as space itself seemed to bend, stars folding inward. A massive shadow eclipsed the forward view. Then another, then dozens warships emerging from folded dimensions in perfect formation. Their hulls gleaming with sigils older than human civilization. Weapons charged but held in restraint. A transmission cut through all channels, visual only. The image resolved into a towering alien figure clad in ceremonial armor. Eyes burning with cold authority. Human, it spoke, your actions have awakened laws you cannot comprehend. I comprehend enough, the old soldier replied evenly. You enslaved your own blood and called it stability. A flicker of something like discomfort crossed the alien's expression. Words chosen carefully. They were lost casualties of a necessary purge. No, he said quietly, they were inconvenient truths. Silence followed, heavy and dangerous. Then the alien spoke again, protocol dictates union. You will be bound or you will be erased alongside them. The old human turned to the three girls, seeing fear, sorrow, and something else now. Hope twisted painfully with dread. They waited, not demanding, not pleading, ready to accept extinction rather than steal a life they did not believe they deserved. That was the moment the twist fully took shape. He smiled, faint and tired. The smile of a soldier who had finally found a battle worth ending his life on. You misunderstand one thing, he said. Turning back to the warship, I didn't buy them. The alien narrowed its eyes. I ransomed them, he continued, and by human law, a ransom establishes kinship, not ownership. My law recognizes family before contracts, and family before fear. The translator faltered, systems scrambling to reconcile conflicting statutes. Alarms rippled across the warships, ancient code colliding with something newer yet equally binding. The Watcher girl gasped, realization dawning, human kinship law predates galactic unification. The old soldier nodded slightly. I am already bound, not as husband, but as guardian by blood oath. Your protocol is too late. The ancient voice returned, strained now. Conflict detected. Succession marriage cannot override established kinship bond. For the first time, the fleet hesitated. The alien commander stared, then slowly inclined its head. You have forced a convergence, human. Destiny now requires consent. The girls turned to him, shock and emotion crashing through their luminous patterns. The choice was suddenly theirs. No longer a cage of law, but an open edge of fate. The rescue had become something greater than survival. It had rewritten the battlefield itself. And in that suspended moment between fleets and stars, love, law, and destiny stood waiting for an answer that would change the galaxy forever. The moment consent entered the equation, the galaxy reacted like a living thing sensing injury. Warships shifted formation in slow, deliberate arcs. Weapons did not power down. They realigned, targeting vectors spreading outward toward populated systems, toward trade routes, toward worlds that had nothing to do with 3 forgotten princesses and 1 tired human. The ancient commander's voice returned. Colder now. Consent creates instability. Instability invites fracture. Fracture invites war. Your choice threatens more than your lives. The old human felt the weight of that truth press against his ribs. He had seen this before in different stars, the way empires justified violence by expanding the circle of blame until everyone was guilty. Then no one mattered. Behind him the girls stood, no longer huddled, no longer shrinking. Their bioluminescent patterns brightened and synchronized again. Symbols flowing across their skin like living banners. The Watcher girl stepped forward. Her voice steady despite the fear burning through her. "You erased us to prevent war," she said, "yet war followed you anyway. Perhaps the problem was never us." That single sentence rippled across open channels, picked up by passive listeners, traders, patrols, independent fleets. The word spread faster than weapons fire. Royal blood speaking without permission was a violation that could not be unheard. Immediately alarms flared across the command deck, secondary fleets responding, old alliances waking, neutral systems beginning to choose sides simply by being forced to notice. The ancient commander stiffened. "You are not recognized as sovereigns." "Not yet," the indigo girl replied. "But recognition has never required permission, only proof and survival." As if summoned by her words, another presence entered the field. Massive, unmistakably human in design, yet far larger than anything the old soldier had expected to see. A carrier group emerged from jump space, hulls bearing faded insignia from a war officially declared finished decades ago. The old human stared, breath-catching. They came. A transmission burst through, voice rough with disbelief and relief. "Guardian 7, this is Human Coalition Remnant Fleet. We detected a legacy kinship activation. Status request." The ancient commander recoiled slightly. Human fleets were not supposed to answer anymore. Treaties had assumed their extinction by irrelevance. The old soldier straightened, feeling something old and fierce ignite in his chest. Standing with the girls at his side, "This is Guardian 7. I am in lawful kinship defense of protected non-human royals, hostile convergence in progress." There was no hesitation in the reply. Kinship acknowledged. "We stand with you." That was the moment the situation crossed the line from political crisis into something far more dangerous. Weapons powered fully across multiple fleets. Not aimed yet but charged. A single mistake now could ignite a war spanning half the mapped galaxy. The clinging girl trembled, fear cutting through her newly found strength. "Worlds will burn because of us." The old human placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Grounding, worlds have always burned. The difference is whether someone finally says enough. The ancient commander spoke again, urgency cracking its carefully controlled tone. "Human, withdraw your claim and this ends quietly. No records, no blood." "No," he replied calmly. "Quiet endings are how monsters stay invisible." Another fleet signal flared, then another, smaller powers aligning behind the royal signal. Systems long resentful of imperial law sensing opportunity. Seeing in 3 living princesses a fracture point where obedience could finally break. Across the galaxy councils convened in panic. Laws were reinterpreted in real time. Slave markets suddenly found themselves under scrutiny. Ownership clauses questioned. Kinship laws rediscovered and weaponized in ways no one had predicted. The girls felt it all like pressure behind their eyes. Destiny roaring louder than fear now. They were no longer victims in a cage. They were catalysts. The Watcher girl turned to the old human, voice shaking but resolute. "If we choose marriage, it unites claims, stabilizes succession, but binds you forever. If we refuse, war spreads outward regardless. Either way you lose your peace." He gave a small sad smile. "Peace was never really mine. I was just borrowing it." The ancient commander raised a clawed hand, fleets bristling behind it. "Final warning, choose now." In that suspended breath before catastrophe, the 3 alien girls stepped forward together. Their light blazing so brightly the bridge sensors dimmed automatically. They were no longer children in chains. They were heirs standing in open space before gods and guns. We choose, the Indigo Girl said, not as victims and not as tools. We choose alliance, not ownership, bond, not chains. And we choose him not because law demands it, but because he stood when the universe looked away. Across 1,000 channels, reactions exploded. Outrage, awe, defiance, hope. The word consent echoed like a weapon sharper than any beam. The ancient commander froze, system stuttering, unable to categorize what was happening. This outcome was not in the simulations. The old human felt the weight of the choice settle fully now. Not just on his shoulders but across star systems, trade lanes, lives he would never meet. Destiny had expanded far beyond rescue. Weapons remained charged, fleets held breath, and the galaxy leaned forward, realizing too late that a quiet act of mercy in a forgotten market had become the spark of a reckoning no empire could contain. The silence that followed their choice was heavier than any explosion. Fleets held position with weapons humming at the edge of release, power signatures flaring and stabilizing in endless cycles. The galaxy itself seemed to wait, stretched thin between obedience and collapse. The ancient commander did not speak at first, its image flickering as internal councils argued in accelerated time. Laws colliding with reality, calculations failing to predict a future that no longer followed clean lines. Around it, banners of authority glowed dimmer, as if even symbols sensed their weakening hold. The 3 alien girls stood unmoving, light pouring from them in steady radiant waves. No longer chaotic, no longer fearful. The patterns across their skin aligned into something unmistakable now. A crest long erased from memory but not from blood. Recognition rippled through distant fleets as archived data awakened. Royal confirmation spreading. Voices whispered across channels. Some stunned, some furious, some relieved. Centuries of quiet compliance cracking open. The clinging girl felt her knees weaken and almost faltered, the weight of what they had unleashed pressing down at last. The old human caught her without thinking, steady hands strong despite their age. He felt her trembling, felt the truth of her fear, and leaned closer. Whatever happens next, he murmured, you won't face it alone. She looked up at him, eyes shining with more than light now. No one had ever said that and meant it beyond the next order. Beyond survival, tears formed, luminous and bright, slipping free in zero gravity before drifting away like tiny stars. The ancient commander finally spoke, its voice stripped of certainty. Your choice destabilizes 12 sectors. Revolutions ignite where your signal touches. Markets freeze. Borders collapse. Millions will suffer. The old human met its gaze, steady and unflinching. Millions were already suffering, you just called it order. That answer spread farther than weapons fire. Human channels amplified it. Independent systems repeated it. Even some imperial fleets hesitated, their targeting locks flickering as doubt entered where obedience once ruled. A new signal cut and suddenly, unexpected, sharp, a smaller alien fleet bearing civilian markings, scholars and archivists, voices trembling with urgency. The succession purge was illegal even by imperial law. Records were altered. The princesses were erased unlawfully. Gasps rippled across the battlefield of space. Proof carried more weight than protest ever could. The Empire's greatest sin exposed not by war but by memory. The ancient commander recoiled visibly, systems flashing warnings, authority fracturing in real time. You overstep, it snapped. No, the archivist replied, you did, and we have the original codes. At that moment, the galaxy tipped. Weapons across multiple fleets powered down not in retreat but refusal. Captains choosing conscience over command. Banners dimming, then changing color. Alliances dissolving and reforming in the same breath. The Watcher girl stepped forward, voice calm, resonant, carrying across open space. This ends now. Stand down. No more erasures. No more laws written in fear. For a heartbeat it seemed the ancient commander might still choose annihilation. Override everything. Burn the problem away as empires always had. The old human felt it then, the same pressure before a final charge. The knowledge that some moments demanded a body to stand between fire and innocence. He moved without announcing it, stepping forward into the center of the bridge, activating the external channel, opening his ship to every watching eye, human and alien alike. If you fire, he said, you fire on me first, not as a soldier, not as a guardian, but as family, and know this, humans do not forget who pulls the trigger. It was not a threat, it was a promise shaped by history. The clinging girl cried out softly, reaching for him, fear flaring anew. The indigo girl's light surged bright with anguish and resolve. The watcher girl's jaw tightened, realizing the depth of what he was willing to give. The ancient commander froze, then slowly, impossibly, bowed its head. Stand down. It ordered, voice heavy with defeat. All units stand down. Across space, weapons powered off, one by one, like stars going dark. The tension broke not with an explosion but with a collective exhale felt across worlds. The old human sagged slightly, age rushing back into his bones now that the moment had passed. The girls caught him this time, hands steady, light warm, holding him upright as he had held them. It was not victory yet, not peace, but it was survival earned, truth revealed, destiny reshaped by choice instead of fear. As fleets withdrew and councils scrambled to rewrite laws in the aftermath, the three alien princesses stood beside an old human who had never wanted a throne, only to do one good thing before his time ran out. And in that quiet after the storm, the galaxy understood something it had long forgotten, that sometimes the most powerful force in existence is not empire, not law, not warships or fate, but a single human who refuses to look away. The aftermath did not arrive with celebration or cheers. It arrived with silence, deep and thoughtful, fleets drifting apart like tired giants after a long standoff, channels filled with low voices rewriting history in real time, councils dissolving and reforming, laws being examined not for how well they controlled but for how badly they had failed. The old human sat on the edge of the ship's corridor bench, shoulders heavy, the weight of years finally settling without urgency to hold him upright. The crisis had passed him by, leaving exhaustion in its wake. He had faced death so many times that survival now felt almost unfamiliar. The three alien princesses remained close, not from fear anymore but from choice. Their light softer now, warmer, patterns no longer flaring in alarm but flowing in harmony. The clinging girl rested her head gently against his arm, tentative at first, then certain, as if testing whether comfort could exist without consequence. You should hate us, she whispered. The universe changed because of us, you lost your quiet. He smiled faintly, eyes half closed. Quiet was never peace. It was just waiting, and I am tired of waiting. The watcher girl knelt in front of him, meeting his gaze at eye level. Her voice carried a steadiness born not of certainty but acceptance. The councils will demand formalization, alliance structures, symbolic bonds. They will call it marriage even if it is not what your species understands. He nodded slowly. I know, names matter less than intent. I will not cage you with vows written by fear. The indigo girl stepped forward last, her presence calm and heavy with meaning. Destiny is no longer a single path, she said. You fractured it, reshaped it, we felt it. The old signal has changed, it no longer demands extinction or coronation. What does it demand now? He asked quietly. Choice, she replied, simply choice. Beyond the ship's viewport, space shimmered as new traffic lanes opened. Ships carrying emissaries instead of weapons. Messages instead of ultimatums. Across the galaxy, slave markets shuddered under sudden scrutiny. Kinship laws rediscovered in forgotten archives were invoked by the powerless. Ownership clauses dissolved where they could not survive the light. History would later argue about causation, about who truly sparked the change. Scholars would write volumes, empires would downplay, rebels would exaggerate, but the truth would remain quietly simple. An old human chose mercy where obedience was easier. The days that followed were filled with small moments that mattered more than battles ever had. The princesses learning how human food tasted, laughing softly at bitterness and heat. The old human listening to stories of a homeworld he would never see. Its skies bioluminescent, its oceans singing at night. They did not rush decisions. Destiny no longer chased them. It walked beside them instead, patient, attentive. When the formal delegation arrived, robed in ceremony and apology thinly disguised as protocol, the old human stood beside the three princesses, not ahead, not behind. When asked to accept the title of consort, he answered with quiet clarity, I accept no title that strips them of choice. Recognize us as allied family, not owned bond. The council hesitated, then yielded because the galaxy had already seen what happened when choice was denied. Thus a new designation entered galactic law, unprecedented, unsettling, guardian consort by consent, a bond defined not by possession but by mutual vow, a framework flexible enough to breathe. The ceremony itself was small, witnessed by stars and a handful of ships. No crowns, no chains, just hands joined, light mingling with weathered skin, promises spoken softly rather than declared. In that moment, the old human felt something he had not felt since his youth. Not triumph, not relief, but belonging, not to a flag or a cause, but to people who had seen him and chosen him in return. Years later, children across worlds would hear the story told in fragments: a human soldier who broke alien law, an old man who married princesses and ended a practice older than empires. Legends would exaggerate, songs would simplify, but those who truly understood would know the heart of it. That destiny is not a chain that binds the helpless. It is a door that opens when someone is brave enough to stand still and say no more. And somewhere in the quiet between stars, an old human lived out the rest of his days not as a hero carved into stone, but as a guardian who finally laid down his armor, surrounded by light that chose him just as fiercely as he had chosen it.